minutes though, guys, because
Yeah,
I did send out a chat saying we would start at 11:10. So
perfect.
we'll make sure we still stop on time. We may even stop early. I don't know if we'll go all the way to 12 o'clock Blaze or not, but
Yeah.
we will definitely be conscious of time.
Yep. We saved a lot of time for a Q&A at the end, so um, it, that all depends on if people have many questions or not. So yeah, we'll just play it by ear. Worst case, some of you guys in the audience get your time back.
Again, anybody who just joined, we're just giving people another minute or two to join the meeting. So if you can just bear with us, we'll get started momentarily. Okay, guys, we're just going to wait one more minute, and then we're going to get started. Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and I'm Brian Pickell. I'm the CEO of KP Interface, and I'm happy to welcome you all to our webinar today. It is part of a series we're doing on AI. This is AI webinar number 105, and most of it will be hosted by my colleague and AI leader here at KPI, Blaze Desirati. But I wanted to first talk about a few things, kind of set the table, and then we'll get started with the demo of our AI platform. The agenda today then is as follows. I want to talk a little about AI strategy in general, and then position where I think Hatz AI fits within that strategy, just to kind of give you guys a kind of a 30,000 foot view before we get into the actual demo. Then Blaze is going to explain what Hatz AI is, and he'll explain all the features, including the apps, workflows, agents, workshop. You'll see it all in there. And then he will give you a full live demo of the product and guide you through it. So, so we can go to the next slide, Blaze. I want to talk a little bit about AI strategy in general. We've been on this journey for a little while, as I'm sure everybody else in the world probably is too, to some degree. And last year, we knew that while we had already had some AI deployed through different applications, et cetera, and some people were using it on their own, I knew that as a company, we really needed to have a corporate AI strategy. It couldn't be just, a couple people here, a couple people there doing disparate, unconnected things in unconnected ways, and just deploying AI, kind of what we now call shadow AI, where people are using it, but not in a way that the corporation is familiar or understands, and it could lead to a lot of challenges overall. But the real goal was to be intentional about our AI strategy. So after a few months of meeting and discussing and learning about all the different things that AI can be, we decided to really put forth a strategy as a company. And I think AI is one of the things that really needs to begin with these 8 pillars. And here I'll explain them briefly to you, and then we'll move on. First of all, I think AI really has to be led by leadership of the company. I think they have to have maybe not the best or the top knowledge in the company about AI, but they have to not just buy in, but lead from the front. So I think it's important that the leadership is able to set the tone, set the intention, set the vision for the entire company. So it's clear. There's a lot of questions and ambivalence and concern a lot of employees have when it comes to AI at this point in time. Obviously, there's concerns about job security and other things. So the leaders really have to set a positive tone about AI and how the company intends to use it. And you don't need to know exactly. We all know AI is changing so fast. You just need to start. You need to take ownership of it at the top. The second thing we recommend is to conduct some sort of assessment in terms of where you and your employees are today. Is anybody using it? If they are using it, how are they using it? How much are they using it? What are their concerns about it, et cetera? Because you really want to get everybody on the same page and at least know from where you're starting to know where you possibly can go with it and how fast you should go with it or how slow you should go with it over the next several months and years, et cetera. That should lead to basically a vision that is set by the leadership and the leadership team. Here's how we intend to use it. Here's how we, intend not to use it, et cetera. This is the vision for us. We see this as something that can amplify and accelerate our business and can help us do our job better, more efficiently, save time, et cetera. Fourth, the strategy. So that strategy really needs to be laid out. Exactly what that strategy looks like in terms of how we're going to use it to help out our company. We're going to help us to do things better, faster, with help from AI. But we also want to be ethical about it, and we want to be secure about it, et cetera. That strategy needs to be laid out. Policy will be part of it as well, and security will have to be considered as well. One of the things that really needs to happen there, though, to some degree, is determine what platforms you're going to allow in your organization. Are you going to allow everybody to use whatever they want? Is the company going to subscribe to a certain platform? Are you going to prevent certain platforms to be used? Are you going to prevent people from, even if they use it for personal use, you're going to prevent them from accessing? Let's say you decide you're not going to use ChatGPT. Are you going to block ChatGPT access for your company? What are the consequences if people use it unethically? All those things really need to go into a policy so everybody understands what the guardrails are for the organization. Security, of course, is a big thing in AI. What you're basically doing is potentially, especially if you're using large language models of any sort, you potentially have the chance of exposing company data to those models and not really knowing how secure that's going to be. So security has to be thought out. The data you're going to use and access and give access to from your AI platform is something that you want to think about with some security experts, really, to make sure your data is going to be protected. Of course, in order to, number 7 here, in order to really get the benefit out of AI, you're going to want to train the staff. You want to give them the confidence, but not only the confidence, but the wherewithal to use the platform to enhance their business, their business tasks day in and day out. So providing some training, no matter what platform you're on, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it might be, training is going to be essential for the company to get the most out of their employees using it. All right. It's like anything else. And the more training they have, the better off they'll be, the more likely they're going to use it to help benefit the business. And then finally, implementation of AI. This should be fairly strategic about how you plan to do it. You don't need to set the world on fire overnight. It really should be a crawl, walk, run mentality, I believe, for most businesses. But you want to be strategic about implementation too. You don't just want to say, hey, we have a platform, good luck. You might say, hey, we have a platform, here's what we'd like you to do within the platform. And also we have a plan to assess our business objectives and our business priorities and our business processes and try to prioritize them in terms of what makes sense to start with, because you probably can't, AI everything overnight. You probably won't do that. Most of us won't. So you got to really think from a leadership perspective is what should get priority in the business, what is feasible, and what should get priority in the business. So those are what I call the 8 pillars of an AI strategy. I'm happy to talk about these further later on in the question and answer section or in an offline meeting as well. But with that, setting the table, really what we're talking about today is Hatz AI, and Hatz AI is going to deal with really the security, the training, and some of the implementation aspects of these 8 pillars. So with that, I'll turn it over to Blaise Desirati.
All righty. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for being here today, especially with the technical difficulty we had at the beginning. You all showed up still, and thank you very much for joining. So yeah, this slide might look familiar. If you've been in any of our other webinars, you've seen me hammer home the security side of things in every single one of them. So I'm going to do that again today. So the danger of doing nothing in regards to AI, whether your entire company is using it or if nobody is using it, these are some of the most common dangers that I see of not changing anything moving forward. First of all, would be falling behind, and it's pretty simple. Your competitors are actively adopting AI. So if your team isn't, you're actively losing ground on efficiency, speed, and output. This isn't exactly theoretical anymore. Next would be data security and privacy. So if your employees are using the free AI tools, there's no guarantees about how that data is handled. I encourage anybody here to go to any AI large language model of their choice, and just go into the security documents on their page and see how they handle the data security and privacy. Just last week, a new tool came out. It was called Lovable AI, and it's awesome. It's like Canva. You get to make reports and presentations. I thought this would be great for us, but my first instinct is to always see what's going on behind the scenes and how they're doing it. And their privacy policy was pretty alarming, to say the least. And just from my experience, I know that a lot of users out there aren't going that extra step to double check on these things. So it's very important that we're on top of that. So yeah, these things can be used for their own model training. That means your client list, internal financials, HR documents could be going in there and living on OpenAI servers, and we really don't know what exactly they could be doing with that. Next would be data loss. So it's sort of like intellectual property loss. This is about the sensitive data leaving your organization entirely. So again, think financial records or legal documents. If someone's pasting that into an unmanaged AI tool, they're going to have access to it outside of work, and you're just leaving another door open for bad things to happen. Next would be user access control. So just like if your company is using SharePoint, you might have permission to access some folders or not. So not everybody in your organization needs access to the same things. So an intern shouldn't have the same permissions as the finance director. So when people are on their own accounts, there's no way to manage who can do what. A managed platform like what we offer gives you a role-based control so that the right people have access to the right tools and nothing more. And lastly, I think this is probably the most underrated one, unstandardized methods. So say you have 3 people on your team that do the same job. Even if they're all using AI, maybe one of them figured it out on their own and has made this incredible process that cuts half of their work, or cuts their work in half every time. The other 2 might have no idea that this exists. So if everybody's on their own scattered tools, there's really no way to share what works in a very efficient way. So if you're on a single platform, you can standardize these best practices. You can share a library of the prompts that you're using, and you can make sure that one person's breakthrough becomes your whole team's advantage. Alrighty, so what is Hatz AI? Hatz AI is an AI company that comes to MSPs like us and enable us with the tools to help enable you guys. So it's a secure, unified AI platform, and it gives you access to 58 plus large language models out there. It has built-in governance, workflow automation. You can build agents, and you can integrate a lot of your tools already. All of this is without vendor lock-in. So your data is never used for training, making it safe for real business use from day one. I've used this example before a lot of times. A lot of people a few years ago, ChatGPT came out, they started using it, they loved it, and they've stuck with that to this day. You might have some other people on your team that have explored other tools. Maybe they're using Claude, maybe they're using Gemini, what have you. This way, if you wanted to standardize your AI usage in your company, none of the other people that are on different tools have to compromise. So in this platform, your people on Claude can use Claude, your people on Gemini can use Gemini. Nobody has to compromise, but beyond that, it gives you a secure playground to just kick the tires on any model that's out there that you haven't tried. You may realize that, yes, 75% of the things you've been doing with ChatGPT are maybe best handled by ChatGPT, but having the secure environment to try the new Claude model with something that you haven't really been able to fully break through with AI just yet, that model could do it much better, or in half the time, give it a better aesthetic look. So it's a really good chance for anybody to just play around with any tool out there without signing up for a free account, putting in sensitive info, and having that just compound across your team.
Well, I think if I could mention something there, Blaze, too, what we found, and many of you may have found the same thing over the last several months or last year or two, is that these different AI platforms, different LLMs, are also changing in terms of what versions they have. So you'll have actually various versions within this platform. So if you like, for example, Claude Sonnet over, Claude, different Claude version, you can use that and just switch it on the fly.
Yep.
Blaze will show you that later. But the other thing to keep in mind is that the capabilities and the performance of these different LLMs are changing all the time. So if you went back 6 months ago, you probably would have assumed that ChatGPT in a lot of respects was a leader in a lot of ways, but there's other LLMs now that have crept into that space and even overtaken ChatGPT in a lot of ways, including Claude, Gemini, et cetera, things that are out there. And the nice part about this platform is it gives you access to many different types of LLMs. And again, you can use them for different things as well. One might be better at making images. One might be better at digesting text or doing financial analysis, et cetera.
Yeah. Thanks for chiming in there. So basically, by focusing on security and adoption, we are helping to enable you to have a standardized AI strategy moving forward. So your employees are already using AI, whether you know it or not, or you might have employees that are strictly against it and haven't tried it, and they're missing out on huge gains. So the question is whether it happens securely and strategically or scattered and unmanaged. So really focusing on two pillars from Brian's first slide, that would be security and adoption. So by using this platform, we're cutting down on the shadow AI, and we're making sure that all the AI usage is secure. But then beyond that, now you have secure AI. What's next? Well, we're really helping to enable the adoption. So those users that, they've tried it, they're really not incorporating it into how they work. We're helping the rest of your team just raise the floor on how you can just be more efficient by using AI. So Hatz AI is built for how teams work. So even if you benefit from just the secure chat, that is a huge win. But then a lot of teams have more tech-savvy users. So you have the AI workshop in there where you can build a workflow, you can build an agent, you can connect it with your other tools. So, the first few months, if you started getting your team using the secure chat, that's awesome. But then how can we dig deeper and really make even more meaningful use cases? That's where the AI workshop comes in, and it really just simplifies everything in that next step of AI usage. So building an app or building a workflow or an agent, you're going to hear me say those words 20 different times, but that's really when you get deeper into AI usage and you're automating things and you're just making everything much more streamlined. And on top of that, there's also the AI phone agent, which is an awesome built-in tool for, the clients that have after-hours phone calls or emergencies that can come up where somebody can't answer the phone. you can have an AI phone agent to really be that first line of defense for your company. All right, now let's get into the live demo. Let me minimize that. All right, so when you first log into Hatz AI, this is going to be your homepage. I know it might seem like a lot at first, but as we get through this, it'll all look much more simple to you. So here's the homepage, and it's grouped by the organization and the community. So within my organization, I can see workflows, agents, and apps that my teammates have published that they thought, hey, this was really helpful for me. If anybody could use this, I'm just going to publish it. They can take it for their own, and they can even make a copy of it. They can add a step. They can take a step out. They can tweak it to something more specific for them. And then below that is the community templates. So anybody else out there that is using Hatz AI, if they publish it, you're free to check it out and see what's going on. You can publish it just for your organization to see. You can keep it private just for yourself, or you can post it out for the world because you're so proud of what you made and you want others to gain from what you made. You might run into some silly ones, or you might run into one like the service retention engine. You're going to open it, check it out, and you're going to say, oh, wow, I could really use this. So let me copy it, make some tweaks myself, or just use it off the shelf how whoever else made it did. So that's the homepage, and let's go right into the chat feature. So when you hop in here, you're going to see, just like you would in any other window for whatever AI you're using now. But the big difference here is right now I have Claude Opus 4.6, which came out about 2 weeks ago. I've been using that a lot, and it's been really, really great. But I'm doing so many different things that I have different use cases for different AI. Claude Opus 4.6 is really, really good, but it's also a reasoning model. So it's trained on a lot more data. So it's sifting through a lot more to achieve what we want. So, I might think Claude Sonnet, it's their faster model. That might be better for what I'm doing. It's not that intense. And yeah, it'll be grouped by categories. So we can have the advanced models like this Opus 4.6. Ones that are better with tool calling, reasoning models, faster models, and image generation models. But if we want to just get a list of how they all look, I'm just going to go right here. I can group it by platforms. So if you're a hardcore Anthropic guy, you can say, you know what, I'm only using Claude. Let's just see what I can use for this right now. It'll give you a little description of what they can do. So the GPT 5.2, it consumes a lot of credits. It's a medium-high cost. It's good with vision, tools, and reasoning. So we can group it by each platform. We have the featured models here. So we have GPT 5.2. That one's also about 2 weeks old. Gemini 3.1 Pro, which came out last week. Claude Sonnet, Gemini 3 for image generation. And yeah, you can just see different Gemini models, and then it's grouping it by the company that came out with it. So I would be willing to bet that nobody in here has used Amazon Nova in any sense. So this is giving you the option to just try it out and see. Maybe you can confirm, yeah, I shouldn't have ever used Amazon Nova. Or you might try it out and be like, wow, where was this the last 6 months when I've been using AI?
Blake,
Yes.
can I ask a question about this though. So when you're looking at this, and you see just stay over one, for example, just for a second, Claude Sonnet. So what does high and medium mean? That right there, the first two, high and medium.
Yeah, I'll show you right here. So high means strong performance across various tasks with advanced reasoning and knowledge. Okay. And then medium here is about the response time. So it's a balanced response time, and it's suitable for most general use cases. But, the more you dive into AI, you're going to have things that you want to be doing on the fly where, the output time matters more to you for that specific use case than how robust it can make something. So if it's something where, Brian's messaging me, urgent, I have an emergency with my computer, I'm not going to want to use a really robust model that's going to take an extra 45 seconds to give me that output because I got to get back to him quick. So, the more you play around with all these things, you really get a sense of what works better than most other things for your specific use cases.
So So, Blaze, outside of some high-end, well-versed AI users out there, to the average person, they're not really going to know which model to use, right? Probably,
Yep.
at least to start. So, what do you recommend in that case? What tool should they choose, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, this recommendation applies to basically everything with AI, not just this. And it's using AI to use AI. In this case, I would probably, let's see, I would go back to here and take a screenshot of these models, and I would ask Claude, hey, I need to build a report by 2:30 today. It's for an AI presentation that I'm doing tomorrow. Which of these models will be the best for me? And then I'll say, explain it like I'm a 16-year-old that's never done this, and then it'll break it down, and it's going to say, oh, so you really want to focus on design and the images here, so maybe this Gemini model will be the best for you. So
Or
really, I just can't.
it'll guide you. It'll guide you with
Yeah.
which use if you're not sure. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one thing I really have to hammer home is using AI to use AI. There's never been a technology like this that's made it so easy to learn and adapt and just figure out how to use it. So yeah, that might come up a few more times today, and I'll get into that with the rest of this walkthrough.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a quick shot of the chat. You you would interact with it like any other one, and then you would switch between them. And what's awesome about it is I can be talking to Claude Opus 4.6, send it 5 messages, and then on the fifth one, I'm like, wait, it's really not getting what I need. And then mid conversation, I can switch to another model, and it will know what we're talking about, and I'll just see how that would handle it. So let me actually show you an example of that right now. So I wanted to just show with the same prompt what it could look like across different models. So in these 3 windows, I have one with GPT 5.2. In the other, I have the newest Claude Opus model. And in the third, I have the newest Gemini model. So I simply asked it, build me a chart that predicts the growth of AI over the next 10 years. GPT, it came back, it said, it wanted a little bit more details out of me. It's asking about the market size, the adoption, capabilities by proxy. You get it. So I just said, you pick. And it gave me this decent chart. I don't know if I would use this right away for anything I'm using, but off the first shot of prompting, it gave me back something that looks way better than you would have a year ago or 6 months ago with AI. Yeah, but so this is what it looks like from GPT 5.2. Now let's hop over here to Gemini 3.1 Pro. We're going to scroll back up to the top, and I prompted it with the same exact thing. And you'll notice this one didn't ask me any clarifying questions like ChatGPT did, which is fine. And it gave me a different looking chart right here, which is great. Again, I don't know if this is something I would use right away, but it's pretty acceptable for the first shot of prompting. And then it's going to just give me some details. So I modeled this based on industry standard. Yeah, so that's it from Gemini. And then let's see what Claude Opus gave us. Same exact prompt. He's going to research the current market, build a professional chart for you. He's telling me how he's gathering data. And then you can always just click into here and see what's going on with the AI and how it's getting to what it's doing. So right here, it scraped the web using a tool called Tavili. Then it actually called out on Perplexity to do the same task. It's executing Python code to make the chart here. And this one looks a lot more impressive to me. But again, I can't stress enough that when you're working with AI, just taking that first output it gives you, you can always just keep refining it. I'll be like, hey, wait, I love that you used these colors here. I like how the chart looks, but let's really zero in on X, Y, and Z right here. And so, these are all just charts. This was such a basic example, but, you can see that you get different outputs by the model. And this is just a good example of, hopping between them to see how one might handle it better. If I really was locking in on this project, off the first go, I would probably want to move forward with Claude out of the 3 to see how we can make it better. Alrighty, so that's a quick review of the chat. Let me just show you also the tools. So I showed you what it looks like when you try to use a different model. Over here, you can see what tools are available. So we have some MCP integrations here. That might be an unfamiliar term for some of you people. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. We can do a deep dive into that if anybody wants to have a meeting or in the next webinar. But these are 4 MCPs that we have enabled right now. And here are some of the built-in tools. These 4 are web scraping. So if you want your AI, your workflow, or your agent to be out going to the web, bring back info for that. These are great tools to enable. Python code execution. This one is huge. I'm going to get into this in another use case. But this way, it's enabled to actually just start coding and building what you want in a much better way than a lot of the traditional models have been the last few months. Right here's the Hatz Workshop Assistant. I'm going to get into this one as well, but there's a whole list of tools and integrations that you can connect for your chat experience for your specific use case. And there's plenty more available integrations down here. So keep an eye out, guys, while you're watching. See if there's anything that you use yourself. And I'll also get into it towards the end of how to connect things that might not be built in here and how somebody like me can come in and just help you enable those things. So cool, that's the chat feature. And you get some folders over here. You can pin chats and previous chats down there. So let's get into the workshop. So I mentioned on one of the slides that the secure chat alone is a huge upgrade for any client out there that doesn't have a standardized usage and doesn't feel great about how secure their AI use is. And you get a month, 2, 3 months down the road, and all of a sudden your team's pretty savvy with AI, but you want to dig deeper and see how you can make it more effective for everybody. That's where the workshop would come in. So let me see over here. If you want to create a new workshop item, you have 3 options. You have an app, a workflow, and an agent. These are 3 big buzzwords that you hear a lot in the world of AI. So let me just give you a quick explanation for all 3. So with an app, think of this like a specialized tool built for one specific task. You'll give it instructions, and it does that single thing well every single time. You're going to expect the same output. So, for our VCIOs, when they're having a quarterly meeting with all of our clients, they're going to have the same meeting transcription, and they're going to want to send the same output, follow-up email to all of our clients with action items and everything else. This way, you build this app, it'll have the structure that you like, it'll know everything that you want moving forward. So it's a really useful tool in that sense. An agent, you've probably heard this used so many times over the last year. So think of it like an app, but a lot smarter. It can make decisions, it can use tools, it can browse the web and look things up, but this is more conversation-based, so it's great for reasoning through a task with the AI for whatever you're working on, if it's more of a head-scratcher or anything. And then a workflow. So this would be a multi-step process, and this is when you kind of get more into the automation space than AI. You can use AI to help out the automation, but this is really just connecting steps in a multi-step process. So if there's anything you do and there's 3 steps, boom, I have to go here, I bring that info into this tool, and then I go back there. That's essentially just what a workflow is. And in this workflow, you build it out, you automate that process. You can trigger it to run every morning at a certain time. You can trigger it to run every hour or when something happens. So if you get a new request in your inbox, that can trigger a workflow for you to go look up the potential client and do some homework on it and then do what you have to do. So we can really get into the weeds with these 3. I'm going to keep it at that level for now. Feel free to drop into the Q&A when we get to there about any questions you'd have on that. So here are some recent workflows, apps, or agents that I may have checked out. And then I can browse by category. Again, this would be the community one. So anybody out there using Hatz, if they've built anything and published it, I'll have access to it here. And, they'll break it down by whatever category fits the user the best. So if a big financial project coming up, I'm going to look in here and see what they have to offer. Excel workbook combiner, vendor management for banks. Yeah, a lot of niche things you'll find, but then a lot of broader context, one size fits all apps or agents that you can use. Over here will be everything that just I have built. You can see I've been doing a lot here. So yeah, anytime I want to share something with somebody or use my specific agent, this is one of the avenues I can take to pull it up and start using it. So let me get back into the connections. So here are all the integrations you can integrate with your tools. It's just another way to find them, to see what you have connected, what's out there, things that are added. There's things being added weekly. So yeah. Cool. So let me show you an agent that I built just this morning. Oh, wait, actually, let me just hop back there real quick. Sorry about that. So let's say we were going to build a new workflow. It's going to pull us into this little canvas area. And I want everybody to take a breath. This might look like a lot at first. Sometimes it does for me too. But I'm going to do a callback to what I said 10 minutes ago about using AI to use AI better. You can, let's see, let's add a step. Let's add a prompt step. You're going to be building out different steps for your, oh, come on, add a step. If I'm building a workflow, it's going to look like this in this canvas edit area. And this is a lot at first. Like, it might be too much. You might see this and be like, I don't know if that's for me. I don't have the time to learn this. But what are we going to do? We're going to use AI to build the things that we want. So there is a tool out there that Hatz made for us, and it is called the Hatz Workshop Assistant. So if I want to start a chat, I'm going to enable this tool, the Hatz Workshop Assistant. So instead of going into that canvas editing area and doing all those steps ourselves, we're just going to tell AI to do it. So over here is a good example that I did. I'm using Claude for this, and the tool that I enabled was the Hatz Workshop Assistant, and I gave it this whole prompt. So I said, build me an agent called the Meeting and Room Booker. I need a fast conversational scheduling that books meetings with people and reserves rooms through Outlook. So we have a bunch of rooms at our office that it's great to have a quick one-on-one meeting with somebody in there, but you have to book it. It's a pain to go into Outlook, click through 10 different things. You have to see if anybody else has scheduled it or not. So this would just be a really efficient way to say, hey, I need to have a meeting with Brian and Medina. We need to have it in the Kirby room in our office. I need you to do it for me. So I was instructing it, telling it exactly that. If anybody wants me to share this with them after, I will, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to run through it all. And boom, this took, it doesn't say how long it took. It was about 45 seconds, I would say. And boom, your Meeting and Room Booker agent is live. Here's the summary of what was built. And now it's giving the description of what it built. And then it links it in the workshop of where I can find that. So over here, we're in that agent itself. And I said, book a meeting for Friday, the 27th with Brian and Medina, Eastern Standard Time, and find the best time for me. 30 minutes, name it the test meeting. So, okay, yeah, cool. Let me go and do that. Found both attendees, repeated the schedule that I have for Friday. I've got a few things going on, but then it's like, your morning is wide open. So, and then you're also free after 12:30. It gave me the time slots. I said 2 o'clock would be great, and add a note saying I'm testing this for the webinar. Boom, it's going and doing that. Found it, meetings booked, boom. So that took about a minute and a half to make the agent that does this and then to make the meeting. So it took less time to automate that than it would for me to actually go in the meeting and check their calendar and everything. And so that's just a very quick, basic way to use that workshop assistant to help you build out a workflow. All right. So then another thing that I wanted to highlight for it was how good it is at making slide decks for you, or even just that first phase of planning it out. I don't know if any of you guys are like me, where the second you pull up Canva or whatever it is that you use and you have to start designing something, it's like my brain just goes blank. Like I just am not a very creative or design first person. So I'm going to use AI to do that. So I made this mock document about a Q1 growth initiative for a company, its current state and where they want to be and some ideas they have to get where they need to be. So over here, this is using Claude Sonnet, and I just said, turn this into a clean, modern 8-slide presentation for a board meeting. Gave it a little bit more detail, but even look at this prompt. There's nothing crazy detailed about this prompt, but it went ahead. It took the document that I just showed you, and it went ahead and made that board deck for us. So let's go check it out. And, at first glance, I wouldn't be ready to present this right away, but it just gave me the template and the skeleton of that report that is that most painful, friction-heavy part for somebody like me in the design process of that. So now, all of a sudden, I've got a decent-looking slide deck, and any little tweaks I want to make, I don't like these red boxes, I wish the numbers were centered, I'm just going to go back into that AI chat and tell it to make those changes that I want. So yeah, we'll just click through, and this looks pretty great so far, just off a very basic prompt without even iterating and giving it any details of what it should change. So yeah, that's a great example of just how it can take, even if it's 15, 20% of the time out of a process, how it can streamline things across the whole team. But in that same notion, I want to go one step further, and this is a little bit more technically heavy. So if anybody has any questions on this, I'd be more than happy to elaborate offline or in the Q&A. So under the same notion, we want to build a presentation off that report. So I gave it a much more detailed prompt. And this is really highlighting the code execution of these AI models now. So I went out and I found a website landing page that I thought was beautiful. I gave it some screenshots, and I added it in here. And I basically am telling it to recreate that with this mock document that I showed you before. And so I told it to give me back an HTML document, which is code. Don't let that scare you. It's really nothing too intense. And I could go into details of how you can make this work yourself. But basically, it just gives me the link to it right over here. And you can see that this report is beautiful. This is off the first prompt again, too. I just gave it even more context. And this is the state of these AI tools today. They can really make some insanely impressive things, even off the first go-around. So that Q1 2026 report, let's see.
Wait, just maybe a quick time check. We're about 11:48.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Just an FYI.
Sweet. Yeah, and so this is just taking it that step further. This presentation right here, this is a good example of how you guys can take advantage of it in the early days where you're just using the chat and figuring things out. But as your team gets more advanced with AI use, you can really make some beautiful presentations, and that's just scratching the surface on everything that you can do in a platform like this. One last use case that I wanted to show you is an agent that I made. So another aspect of my job here at KPI is working with the cybersecurity team. And, me and my manager were thinking, what's a way that we can get the rest of our team involved if there's a more widespread security incident going on, anything that's going on. So I made an agent using that workshop assistant. And I basically gave it some standard operating procedures that we use on our security team. And so you can talk to this agent like it's somebody on the security team, and it can step you through how to remediate anything that's going on as if it was somebody in management that's advising you on how to move forward. So I said, this is an agent, by the way, cybersecurity service desk agent. So a bunch of users were just hacked. I've never worked in cybersecurity before. Help me. I understand this is urgent. Let's work through this methodically. Immediate questions, and it wants me to answer these. While you gather that info, do this now, and it's giving you some more steps to do. And I just give it a little bit more context. So 5 users from this company called frantically saying that their email is compromised and emails are being sent from their account. And right away, it's giving an executive report style, immediate actions to do right now. So really by creating an agent and giving it the right context for a specific use case, you can now have a virtual team member that's the expert on anything that your business does for anybody that isn't an expert themselves. Yeah, so that's just a quick use case of an agent. There's a whole lot whole lot more that I could show you. And then lastly, I'll just show you the learning portal. So this is huge for teams that are adopting a tool like this, having a built-in learning module like this. So there's 3 modules. The Hatz AI Champion Cert, which is a broader AI, it's broader and focused on AI in general. But then you get to the AI Navigator Hatz onboarding, and this is more for the Hatz platform itself. So lastly is the quick AI skills. It's just quick 2, 3, 4-minute videos of quick tips on using AI better. So having a training platform like this in your AI platform, it's a huge win. Internally here at KPI, I mean, it was worth its weight in gold. So yeah,
Yeah,
so that's the training.
Please, if I could talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
As manager, as the leader of the organization, I don't have to worry about if all my users are not going to be on the same page with at least basic skills when it comes to using AI. With the training that's built into the portal, which we're mandating everybody needs to take, I can guarantee that within so much time, everybody will have at least the basics covered, have completed the training, and now I can trust that they'll use it in a much better format than if I just said, hey, here's a tool and good luck. So it's great to have that.
Yeah, for sure. All righty. So that brings us to the Q&A. So I did see one question in the chat already. Okay, so let me catch up to speed here. We've got a few questions. Okay, Nick, thank you for these 3 questions here. I will start from the top. Are there any government regulations in the AI world? The answer is yes. So there's a lot of things really to consider if you are a company that has to abide by HIPAA compliance, GDPR compliance. There is a lot out there. That would have to be a separate, deeper conversation that we would have. But there's a lot of frameworks out there already. One is the organization NIST. And let me, in the follow-up from this, I will actually send that out because it is a comprehensive framework on AI security. NIST comes out yearly with security frameworks at the enterprise level, at the government level, on things around technology to be more secure. And what they're starting to do now is come out with an AI-focused version of these things. So there is some heavy considerations to look into for whatever specific compliance rules your organization has to follow. Okay, so that's the government regulations. Is each AI type available as an app on the iPhone or just something to be used on a laptop or desktop? Currently, right now, this is desktop only. But what's awesome about Hatz, the company, is every Friday, they host an hour-long webinar for people like me to join and users on the other end. It's called Feature Fridays, and they're coming out with new things weekly. So the phone app is coming soon. They announced new integrations, new use cases that come out, new models that have been added, and any new tweaks to the platform itself. So yeah, a phone app will be coming shortly.
And Blaze, just to remind you, we only have about 5 minutes left.
Okay, cool. And Nick's last question, I'm assuming that with each of the AI types, you have to pay for the advanced capabilities that each may have. And no, all these AI models are you're operating at the level of the premium version. So it's not like you have, like when you're using ChatGPT, if you're on the free model, you might reach limits about, image processing and things like that. All these models in Hatz are the premium versions already. Okay, so thank you for those questions, Nick. Okay, let me go to the other side.
But just one question here, Blaze. Let me mention it to you. Does Hatz learn about the user preferences via memory similarly to ChatGPT and Claude?
Currently, right now, if you go into a new conversation thread, it will not have context to the other conversations that you've had. If you switch mid-conversation, switch to a different model, it will have context of that conversation. So think to some of the things that we build in the workshop, an app, an agent, or a workflow. You can give those your user preferences and the context for each specific use case that you have. So then that way you can kind of segregate, certain preferences and styles of how you want things by app. So yeah, you can get very creative with building apps and having it only know the context that's necessary for it. So it's not bringing in irrelevant info that it knows about you for a specific thing that you're working on.
Last question here I'm going to take, Blaze, which is Hatz free to all KPI clients? It's not free. We have a cost to ourselves that we have to pay for, obviously. So it's not free. We do have a couple of models of how we will be offering this to clients. We will most likely offer it as an add-on to our current managed services offering. In the future, though, it may be part of our standard managed services offering. So, but we're working on that. And right now it's available for an additional cost to KPI clients, but in the future, it may be inclusive of our agreements as well. Blaze, if you go to the last couple of slides then, please, that would be great.
Yep. And then one last question to address. Justin Wentz, thank you. Do you help us implement these tools? Yes, that is why I'm here. Some clients, I can just turn it on for them, say, hey, here's your new AI platform. But the whole bread and butter of why we're doing this is for me to get in there with all of our clients and help them discover the use cases that they might not be aware of, help them connect it to their other tools, and really put the burden of implementation on myself and just make it as easy as possible for everybody out there that wants to implement this. So yeah, anybody with another question that I did not get to, I'd be happy to reach out to you after this. So, okay, that leads me to training and adoption. So education is the key to setting yourself up for success while using AI.
Are you sharing your screen, Blaze? Just to make sure that you are.
I am. Can anybody see the slide? Okay, cool.
Sure.
Yeah, so I am more than happy to deliver a hands-on AI workshop for any client out there, whether it's about Hatz or if it's about Copilot. Anything under the sun. If you want to book me for 30 minutes or an hour, this is what I love to do. So feel free to reach out. I can run a little personal webinar like this, more in depth. It can be very basic and beginner friendly, or as your team gets more and more advanced, we can hold a more advanced workshop. So consider me as your first resource for anything AI, and just reach out to me, and then we can get your whole team on board, and I can do whatever is necessary to just help educate your whole team. So yeah. If anybody's interested, you can scan the QR code here. That will bring you to my booking page. There might be a few options on there. If you're interested in our AI readiness assessment, I can walk you through what that looks like, and we can schedule something for that. Or even just to have a broader AI discussion in general, you're more than welcome to scan the QR code and book some time with me and ask us about a free trial. We're more than happy to enable a free trial to Hatz for any users out there that are interested, because we think it's such a valuable tool that you at least need to get in there and kick the tires and play around with it. So if that will help you guys out and get started, we are more than happy to offer some free trials out there. So yeah, get in touch, scan the QR code. I will leave this up for just a little bit longer, but that's it for me. Brian, if there was anything else that you wanted to add, feel free, but thank you guys so much for joining today.
No, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for coming. There is a couple of questions here, Blaze, about costs. Again, we have a couple of different models to offer in terms of costs. So it's probably best just to have a separate conversation about that, because there's a couple of different ways to roll it out in your organization. So we can do it just the platform. We can do it with certain levels of services that are included. But everything that's nice about it is it'll be fixed fee on a monthly basis. So you don't have to worry about adding extra users. You don't have to worry about your adding, using how much your usage is, et cetera. So the one good thing I can tell you is that it will be fixed fee. Blaze, I want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank everybody who joined us today. We're here to help. If you have any further questions, or if you want to talk to us again, please book a meeting with Blaze. His link is also in the chat. So you can just click on that link and book a meeting with Blaze with his availability. Okay. Thanks again, everybody. We look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.